Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Remember Me. So, more and more I'm talking about the breaks in between recording each episode. As a video game critic who aspires to cover a lot of games, ideally I would play games in large chunks of, well, one would say almost 8 hours of gameplay to be the equivalent of a 40-hour 9-to-5 type job. However, that never seems to be anywhere close to the case for me. And in this instance particularly, after doing that first episode, I was not super enthralled with this game, so it's been an entire day after hopping into what should have been a much quicker set up to just get the ball rolling. We're not to the point where I feel like we look like the character in the trailer or on the cover of the game would have looked had I bought this in a store instead of on Steam. And 45 minutes in, that's a little too late. Maybe what needed to happen is you have a scene that's a flash forward, and then after that flash forward you flash back to the scene that we did see at the beginning. So this says, an heiress left a memory of a hidden stash for you to find. Study the picture carefully to indicate the area in your surroundings. Alright. So the thing here is it doesn't seem like there's a first person mode. Back button and start buttons do different things. Like, unless there was some kind of like crazy first person mode in game settings. Yeah, I don't know how you get a great image here. So you're gonna have to work within this system. And it doesn't seem like there's a button to press or something. So let's see, let's look around and see if we see something that kind of matches. I guess it's this, but looking at this, is it that yellow box in the lower right hand corner that I'm supposed to collect?
Where are all the people? There must be someone up here.
Like, and as a just general gamer, man, boy does that feel like if I took one more step forward I would just fall. Look at that. The slight animations of shuffling has allowed her to be completely hovering in the air. And I didn't intend to do that at all. Seems like we can climb up. And I'm feeling like the game is a little glitchy. Maybe that's because I left the game sitting. Collect 5 stat patches to get an extra health gauge chunk. See, the game doesn't seem like it has a save. So after this recording, unless something else happens, I feel like I should probably exit out and not leave the game running for about 24 hours. A lot of games on PC don't do well by being left on pause. So that while that is a scenario that I would like to see improved upon, it is certainly, I don't think, a consistent thing. To perform a back jump, press L in the opposite direction, press A. That's pretty intuitive. Press A to vault over a ledge. This is probably before Mirror's Edge, when this game came out. In a aesthetic way, it's almost like the opposite of Mirror's Edge.
I can play. I can.
Right. You're dangerously low on health. I think that was intentional. Press back to enter the Sensen menu, press A to enter the combo lab. The 5-hit combo has been unlocked. So we're still tutorializing here. A new type of present is now available. Regen presence. Whenever Nilin performs a regen present, she will regenerate some health. Okay. Use these new presents to customize your combo. So, regenerate health on this X. So it starts YX. Which I don't like that immediately. So let's put the regen at the end. And the next one is this Y, which apparently I don't know what I'm highlighting wrong here. Let's see. This, I guess, has to be this. Apparently I didn't do it right. And this, I'm still thinking that these little yellow symbols are some kind of DLC thing. So XY, XY, well, YX, YXY would be what we've got here. And then it seems like we have to have a Y there. And that uses everything we have. Sure doesn't really feel like I'm customizing anything here. It seems like very much they wanted the first combo to be XXX, and the second combo they wanted to be XYXYXY. And maybe in this you could have moved some things around and it would do more damage, or it would or make a slightly different move. Really, it feels like what they've done here is taken every single like wireframe animation that they've made, and instead of having some artistic value to adding those moves into the game, saying this is what the main character can do, this is the cool action she's going to be able to do when you press the buttons, they've left it to the player's choice to try to find the best looking ones or the most effective ones. And in the meanwhile, all the ones that aren't the best looking and that aren't the most effective are going to also be shown, so you're going to have lesser quality YX, YX. Let's remember. YX, YX, YX. So YX, 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 This is never gonna work as a free form move. Like, now I've just moved back to X. We've got some nice music going, but the point here, I think, in a lot of this would also be to get away from being hit and dodge. So on top of a pretty bad fighting system, there's also a pretty bad dodge system in this. And really, I just want to be able to do this. Like, YX, YX, YX. Like, I really just want to be able to button mash. And I would argue that even the most professional game, the most, like, this is a Final not Final Fantasy, but Street Fighter level game designed for the pros and the esports players. I think even them have to have some consideration for button mashers like me. That's really just how I feel like it should be. Alright, so I'm climbing over, which I just climbed over by pressing up, not pressing A. And now I'm pulling backwards on the controller and it's not targeting me. I have to press right. So the instructions that they just told me are not even accurate. It's extremely subjective based on just what angle you're looking at. Loading into the fight sequence may have fixed the kind of jankiness I was feeling, although I wouldn't be surprised if there's just jankiness in this always. It's amazingly ambitious, this game is, considering this is Don't Nod's first game ever. I don't know, maybe Don't Nod is made up of a couple of programmers who worked at some other company. That might be the case. Seems like you could drop down, but I'm not exactly sure why you'd want to drop down. It'd just take you back to where you started. You get a lot of random noise in the background.
Drop by my place, leaking brain, because misery loves company.
See, the subtitles and the ambient noise is not.
He told you! He died twice! He died twice!
Johnny Green Teeth been crying your name out in the dark. I couldn't care less, because my life is worse than yours. But drop by my place, leaking brain.
So we got the ad going.
Loves company.
Still very much feels like you should be able to.
Your mama been sleeping with a leaper?
Still feels like you should be able to crawl under there. Unless those are just elements. Okay, so now I've got to run back this way because I found something like this. I think that was probably a journal entry. At this point, flickering menu. For the most part, yeah, don't care about these journal entries.
Hey man, this is Headache Tommy.
I kind of wonder about that even in games like Skyrim. Like, what is the average amount of time you have to play Skyrim before you decided, man, it is really easy just to fall over? There definitely needs to be an animation so you don't accidentally just fall. Something where she goes like, whoa, and takes a step back, and you have to then press forward. So is this where we just collected one? I think it probably is. But if it is, why are you showing it to me now? Because I can't get back there. Interesting. I thought the news said there were only 2 errorists in this world. So either the news is lying, or there was a lot more until recently. Well, I guess that was the news story, is that there was like 37 of them that were rounded up in one fell swoop. You do seem to have a nice buddy up system where you can, if they're close together, you can hit them both. That's kind of nice. You reach the PMP threshold and can now unlock a press and go to the combo lab. Still tutorializing. Nilin gains PMP, which that just doesn't sound like that is a good, good term. Frankly, procedure and mastering points. Couldn't you think of something else? Like maybe in French that plays off better, but to an English ear, it's just like, oh, it's a pimp. She gains some pimp points, and I guess that kind of makes sense. You are slapping around some people. Procedural mastering points are used to unlock forgotten pressings. Why not just call it XP? Frankly, XP makes sense. It's something you don't have to explain. It's experience points. It's very standard. Think about how this new precision could create longer, better combos. I think the only one I can even unlock is this. Like, I don't think there's anything else that can be unlocked. Do you want to use the key to unlock this pressing? I assume so, yes. You can now use your pressing to create a combo. The longer the combo, the more powerful it is. What's weird here is that these moves, for no logical reason, seem to be used up in a scenario, and that kind of makes no sense. Let's see, I guess if I replace this would reduce regeneration. The rest of these seem like they'd be the exact same thing. Sure, why not? This makes literally no sense as far as why you can't have X become X again. Why can't I do this same press and move 3 times in a row and do a combo? Because that's the logical thing I would think it could be. See, when I hit X for A for help, it says press A to go forward, and then I press A and it just goes back to the menu. So unless I'm X for help and then press start for more help, I'm still not sure what these little icons mean. Alright. Guess it is not time for me to know how this whole system is happening. Yeah, it seems like this engine doesn't have the smoothest of things. Let's try something here. If I'm getting a little bit of a herky-jerky, like a frame drop, that just might be VSync. Of course, changing VSync is always potentially a fixer of bugs and a causer of bugs in all one. But without vertical sync, since my computer's plugged into that was a very awkward jump, a TV monitor that isn't particularly the best when it comes to TV monitors and frame rates. It's possible that every now and then it is dropping a 60 frames per second frame. Is there a way to get over there? Is this the collectible that image back there is telling me about? It would be kind of nice if I could go back there and it would show that the collectible is now gone, so to indicate that these were camera feeds. I guess it is gone, so maybe that is an indicator I collected it, or maybe it's just gone because we had that whole fight sequence and there's a cutscene in there. I don't know if you could ever convince somebody to scrap a game to the point where you would have a running game like this, and instead you turned it into something like a Telltale game where I'm just climbing upward. Let's see what happens.
Get off of me!
Seems like there's a lot of vertical transversal needed. Apparently, Neo Paris is really tall.
Give me your face! Your face! I've lost face! Bad child!
And her Simpson is not as defined, so I wonder if her health is really low. See, yeah, I'm half thinking like maybe a lot of this could just be QuickTime events, and the moves and the fights could just be QTs. And I would usually applaud an effort to not have QTs, but this fighting mechanics doesn't seem like it's very much better. Let's assume that this guy is one of these kind of strong characters. The Skinner is much stronger when other leapers are around. Defeat the leaper prowlers before you go after him. Thanks. So, not only does he have an echo mode, and the music is great, unfortunately you can't really focus on it. And you totally see what they're trying to do. Alright. And I took him out.
The Leapers are attacking citizens.
Leapers were citizens.
All right. I'll believe you.
Come on, move it. Tommy's waiting for you at the leaking brain.
I guess it starts to make sense, though, that you would... If you're trying to just destroy a population, wiping their brains, turning them into leapers, and then having them take on the rest of the society is a decent plan. You're creating an army while also eliminating your opponent and setting your own opponent against themselves. There's just like a robot back there that I assume is just trying to fix the city for no real reason. The weirdness here is like she said I'll believe you, but I don't know what in context that means. Is she gonna believe every single thing he says? Probably. That's your standard video game response. And it's the very, very basic cliche to find out that the person you were listening to throughout the whole game was actually the bad guy all along. In fact, it happens at this point almost 50% of the time, if not more. She's looking at her foot. She's wearing shoes, which I have to applaud that. A lot of games don't do that.
Citizens of Neo Paris, the Leaper threat has been addressed. Thanks to the reconversion project, they now live to serve you faithfully. From sanitation to saber force, they have become productive servants of society. The Reconversion Project by Memorize. Humane responses to barbaric perils.
So she's saying,
Citizens of
the ad is saying that the Leapers have been turned into slaves, basically.
From sanitation to saber force, they have become productive servants of society. The Reconversion Project by Memorize. Humane responses to
There's a guy down there. I only kind of see that guy. I have a little bit of control on the camera, but not much. I suppose, now having been in 3 or 4 of these pressing fights, I would have preferred that they had rolled out the game in a way that you could button mash with the presents and put a little bit more money into the development.
Cross the floating
because
market
of that.
to that warehouse. It's a shortcut to Tommy's bar.
And maybe even what you do is you reduce the amount of experience you get if you don't actually do the present fighting, so you can try to encourage that level of gameplay. If you really couldn't do that, I would probably script every fight and go to quick time events. It's a real tough decision in my head though, whether to roll out the game as it is, which would have been what they were working towards, thus the least amount of development time and money required to go any further. As for the platforming and all of that, that basically at this point is just built into engines like Unity and Unreal and other engines. So I wouldn't be surprised if very little extra program, as good as Fish, let's trade with tomorrow, and Bits of Fish, the slum's finest. So these are, I assume, real holograms, not things I'm just saying, or at the very least they are holograms that everybody sees. Speaking of assets that are by default, I imagine these cans and fish elements are straight from Capcom in their Resident Evil development. In fact, Resident Evil 6 looks very, very similar to a lot of these elements. Which, I guess that's one benefit of having a publisher, is that you might just have a whole library of small incidental items that you can use to fill, some might argue, flood the screen with. This is supposed to be the slums, so it makes sense.
I don't think that this is the story you're looking for.
Seems like nobody wants to do any business. This seems to have some kind of technological component to even the bench, which seems odd. Like, why does the bench need some technology in it?
Try somewhere else.
This is leaking brain ads. And I just clicked the left stick thinking maybe there was a more of a breadcrumb trail that would have told me which way to go, because we've entered kind of an open area. But I'm not sure that that's the case. I think there's probably a collectible over there. This game has gotten kind of bad about locking doors behind us. Like, it'll just lock doors behind you when you go to certain areas.
You're cute, but I'm busy.
Even in Resident Evil 6, a much bigger game, the level of quality on these items, these flat textures, is never really great. I think Capcom's too ambitious with them, and even a modern PC just can't really handle animating that many polygons that would have been needed to make this look good.
Elsewhere.
So, yeah. Carts of food, sales carts of food and such like that are great examples of where you can see little bits of drops in quality in the textures. For instance, here you have dead eels. They'd have to be dead quite long to guarantee that none are squirming whatsoever. And all that blood makes a lot more sense if you think that that was originally designed for the Resident Evil series.
I'm not interested.
Yeah, in comparison to like Life is Strange, considerably less square footage.
Another time, perhaps.
There's a fight going on over there. Where you can walk, what you can see, items that you could possibly interact with.
Okay, yes, I got the vacation.
And you got the card for the canteen.
I got the card.
We're getting little bits of music.
Sorry, I'm waiting for something.
that are getting ruined with dialogue, just incidentally playing. We're now, let's see, at 2 of 40. It's starting to feel like all of these collectibles are going to be the entire collectibles in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if this game isn't as long as you would normally think. It isn't. In fact, I know that most people take about 15 hours to play this game. This looks like a game that would have been a 30-hour game with the level of graphics and effort put into this. And it would only be a slight style. I'm still getting a little bit of hitching. I think it, for the most part, comes right when I'm twisting around and, let's see, like putting camera here and then going to some other place where it needs to load in new textures. That might be my video card. The GTX 970 has kind of this fraudulent array of memory in it, video memory, where 3.5 gigabytes are very fast amounts of speed RAM, but then the last 500 megabytes is actually really slow. So as you take advantage of the 4 gigabytes that the video card reports to games, as the engines do, they get frame stutter and inconsistent frame pacing because the RAM speed is inconsistent. There was a whole lawsuit on it, and supposedly there was supposed to be a class action rebate refund that I was supposed to get. Of course, those things never actually appear. Like, I've filled out dozens of them in the United States, and they never show up. So activating catwalks. It is worth mentioning that there is the whole memory rewriting section and style of gameplay in this. And we haven't gotten to that point yet.
I'm not gonna turn you in, but I'm not letting you past.
Interesting. And that certainly was a main thing that this game was advertised on, was a demo example of rewriting people's memories. And that got the big journalist, big video game journalist, very hyped on this game. That kind of left him, I imagine, not super happy when they realized that there probably wasn't too many of those sequences. So I just apparently learned a move and did it without the game asking.
What was that thing?
That's a good sign, sister. With time, other memories will come back.
Like, what was that thing? You just clearly did something. And they established that she can kick doors. So why is her leg clipping through these boards? This feels like this would have been a way back. Bits. Some kind of robot dancer. If I can stun lock people, or just stun them in the fights, that will help, I imagine, in a lot of fights to come, making the experience
You're almost there.
slightly.
Follow Tommy's flying
less
drones to his
repetitive.
barn.
Although, I'm still kind of the opinion that there she's wanted. This might have been a better system. Let's see. Down. Oh, it wants me to drop down. Okay. Oh, I thought I was gonna jump backwards. Hold right bump to move along faster on ledges.
Give me a memory,
Which makes me
man.
wonder if I
Anything
could
will do. Just
run
need
with
a
right
fix.
bump throughout the whole
This
game.
one, and I'll stop.
Memories unraveling. It's looser than a second-hand cyber orgasm. You're 2 steps away from fragmentation.
Anything, man. I just want to remember something happy.
So, apparently, these people have messed with their brains, and this is a great argument against regulation of memory manipulating devices, and making sure that, yes, this isn't going to drive the entire society of Neo Tokyo crazy. Am I gonna jump back and grab that? No, I don't think so. I'm just gonna jump.
Nice shortcut, Edge.
So, there you have your standard jump and the ledge breaks. Although that happened a lot later than I thought it would have. Thing here is I have not seen any autosave. It seems like this game is violating standards that would be required to release this game on consoles, and it was released on consoles. Of just, you know, telling the player that an autosave is happening and that you shouldn't pull the power in the game right at that point. So, I guess this is just going to be a straight run scenario. It didn't seem like there was really any collectibles or anything in that. Let's see, we're back into the run sequence. And a fall to your death sequence. So we've had two run sequences, and twice the 2 run sequences have fallen.
Don't stop, Nilin! Stop! Well, no going back.
And hold right bump and downward to slide. And then drop. And you can't really see where you drop otherwise, so I guess you're not supposed to do that. Well, we made it. And is that just a straight hologram that we're seeing on the outer edge in the skybox? Or is that just what Neo Tokyo really looks like once you get out of the slums? Well, before we do that, let's... Seemed like you could go down lower. Which tells me that there's some collectible. And apparently if you fall off the edge, you're safe. So it's been an hour and 30 in gameplay. We've gotten to this point. As far as status and current objective, apparently they still haven't made any progress on getting the scare mechs or focus boost, so there's more game. However, it seems like most of these memories that are collectibles might be throughout the whole game, but maybe just the first half. Enemy information, we're probably only going to have 14 types of enemies. That tells me definitely that had this game been given more funding, it would have been twice as long with twice as many memories. But the weird thing here is I've seen nothing as far as checkpoints. So, like, I guess the one thing I could do is reload the last checkpoint, but I might as well just exit to the main menu. The game is doing a pretty odd job as far as like indicating where checkpoints are. That they probably are happening quite a lot. And episode 0, episode 1, looking at the size of the font there, it tells me that there's 10, maybe 12 episodes in total. Seems like where we are almost done, and we've missed only one of the 2 collectibles. As far as extras, generally I wouldn't come into this point and look at them because I'd save all of that, but I do have a slight interest. We haven't unlocked any artwork, but we have unlocked one 3D model, which kind of makes sense. And this is just the medical staff, which I imagine we won't see again. Although, if this was a longer game, you would have her break back into that hospital and reuse those visual assets. Or something similar to that, break into a different hospital. As far as achievements go, since we can actually see this, we did 100% of episode 0, and I don't think we've even unlocked the description of anything else. Here's the achievement for finishing it in easy mode. Here's the achievement for finishing it in the mode I'm playing in, and here's the achievement for finishing it in the hardest mode, so that indicates that there probably isn't a harder mode. Some spoilers here, but we don't really even know yet. Frankly, for a game like this, since this is a game that probably would be better as a story-focused experience versus being a fighting game, I don't see a real reason to be motivated to do the achievements. For instance, I saw one that said knock the leapers off of the sides of platforms 50 times. It's like, well, if this was a fighting game and there was a lot of interactions in which we're going to have that opportunity to do that, that would be one thing. But I imagine it's going to be quite the struggle to even knock off 50 Libras off the edge, because I bet you only fight maybe 150 in the entire game. Anyways, it's been 45 minutes. That's going to be it for this recording. I'm going to exit out. That's why I'm at the menu. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, friend me on Steam, gift me a game. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.